Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests and colleagues, honorable MPs, Mr. Genius, let me share with you some lessons Ukraine learned about the importance of complex reform when it comes to development that opens the door for being successful on a regional and global level, and why it is very important to choose wisely your development partner. November 2023 and February 2024 are very special dates for Ukrainians. Both are the dates of remembering about the existential challenges we faced and what we have been through since then, against all odds. These days we commemorate the 10th anniversary of the Revolution of Dignity, born from the Ukrainian people's resolute desire to join the European family to which we always belonged. We mark also second anniversary of genocidal war of choice unleashed by Russia against Ukraine and Ukrainians. And of course, we reflect on the road we have passed in the last decade. What helped us to withstand and what inspired Ukrainians? What we developed successfully to overcome the complex crisis of political system enhanced by the first Russian invasion and occupation. Reflecting on challenges faced by Ukraine in 2014, particularly the Russian invasion and occupation, it becomes evident that the resilience of our nation has been tested in multiple forms. The complex circumstances demanded strategic response and crucial commitment to reforms that went beyond immediate economic concerns and gains. In 2014, Ukraine faced significant challenges that had far-reaching implications. Some of the key challenges include political crisis that began with mass protests in Kyiv, capital of Ukraine, demanding the government to sign an association agreement with Europe instead of closer ties with Russia. Ex-President Yanukovych fled Ukraine in February 2014. His government disappeared. The only institution that remained functional was parliament. Then the occupation in Crimea. In February and March 2014, Russian military intervention of Crimea escalated, culminating in a sham state referendum in which Crimea allegedly voted to join Russia. Occupation of eastern Ukraine. Following the occupation of Crimea, Russian proxies and military groups organized and armed by Russia started occupation of eastern regions of Ukraine, particularly Donetsk and Lugansk. Armed conflicts between Ukrainian armed forces and Russian proxies intensified throughout 2014, leading to a full-scale war in eastern Ukraine. Political turmoil and Russian military invasion had severe consequences for Ukraine's economy, trade, and investments. Ukrainian energy dependence on Russian natural gas posed a significant challenge. Russia bluntly blackmailed Ukraine and cut off gas supplies, leaving millions of Ukrainians to freeze out in February. Russian occupation of eastern Ukraine and Crimea resulted in a humanitarian crisis, with displacement of civilians, damage to infrastructure, and loss of lives. So the political crisis of 2013-14 and subsequent events, including the occupation of Crimea and parts of eastern Ukraine, brought about a dire economic situation. Newly formed Ukrainian government was called kamikaze, and there is a reason for that. Ukraine faces significant loss of economic and industrial regions, coupled with a sharp decline in GDP and weakened currency. The financial system teetered on the brink of collapse, and efforts to curb the bank run proved challenging. In face of these daunting challenges, the importance of reforms became apparent. The urgency to maintain macroeconomic stability was paramount. The government, faced with a dire financial situations, had to make difficult decisions to navigate through the crisis. International support, including assistance from G7 countries, the US, Canada, EU, IMF, World Bank, and EBRD, played a crucial role in stabilizing the economy. However, the financial support came with conditions, including reforms that at first glance may have seemed unrelated to the immediate economic survival and development. While struggling to address economic challenges, the Ukrainian government had to implement reforms in areas seemingly indirect to urgent economic needs. Imagine you are a prime minister whose government cannot find a supply of natural gas, which should be an alternative to monopolists who weaponize its inclusive supply to get the political benefits over you. or leftovers on state treasury account are not enough to pay pensions to 10 million of retired Ukrainians or even salary to public servants. In such situation, which is a real case of 2014-2017, you would be surprised, if not shocked, to find out that among top priorities in recommended reforms list, there are such things as freedom of speech and press, which is guaranteeing freedoms of expression, protecting independent media, and ensuring journalistic integrity, foster transparency, accountability, and public disclosure. Political freedoms, upholding democratic principles, ensuring free and fair elections, and protecting political rights and freedoms, promote political stability, legitimacy, and citizen participation. Human rights protection, safeguarding fundamental human rights, including civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights, contributes to social justice, equality, and inclusivity, developing and supporting non-governmental organizations and the civil sector. In other words, while your government struggles to pay rent and bills, you are expected to spend limited resources on independent newspapers, foreign observers at the elections, or support numerous debates on what bills to be paid first. These decisions are hard to take when every penny counts. Nevertheless, reforms in freedom of speech, political freedoms, human rights protection, and the development of non-governmental organizations were emphasized and implemented. It turned out that these seemingly indirect reforms were crucial components of our future resilience. They laid the foundation for a robust civil society, media independence, and democratic principles, elements that proved invaluable during subsequent challenges. Fast forward to 2022, and the results of these reforms became evident during the Russian re-invasion. When in 2022, big international brands in humanitarian assistance failed to deliver food and medication to Ukrainian cities occupied by Russians, it was numerous Ukrainian volunteers and non-governmental organizations that quickly deployed their operations. They were ready to risk their lives to help those who suffered. They didn't have big budgets and well-recognized brands, but they knew how to operate independently, effectively, and they had trust. Trust to raise billions in donations from Ukrainian and foreign donors. Volunteers have created in Ukraine a powerful machine converting donations and humanitarian support delivered right at the doors of those who in need. When most international media outlets started covering Russian re-invasion in February 2022 from Moscow, or from Kyiv in the best case, it was Ukrainian independent journalists who were not afraid of Russian shelling and bombing. They reported right from the epicenters of the invasion, occupied cities, and the front line. The international observers who watched Ukrainian elections were the top advocates of immediate foreign assistance to Ukraine to counter aggression. That's because they watched not only elections, but the formation of young democracy, sharing their values and being ready to defend them fearlessly when time came. Ukrainians stood up to defend their country as one, not because party or president told them to do so. They were ready to fight for their freedoms, identity, and right to choose their future. I wish it would not be a war that demonstrated so vividly the importance of reforms and the development in various areas. Investment into civil sector and freedoms helps country to be resilient and better prepared for challenges of unprecedented scale. We learned our lesson. We can share our experience of reforms and development. We can assure you that it's not only economic factors that matter when you choose your development strategy and development partner. There are things that cannot be measured and priced, but which are absolutely essential when it comes to the existence of any state, country, or nation. Freedom of speech, civil sector, and political rights are equally important as energy or tax reform. Without investments in human capital, any state is risking facing potential aggression without people who understand what they are fighting for. Now Ukrainians reopened the relations with African, Latin Americans, Middle East, and Asian countries. We realized that the war against Ukraine needs to be explained to our partners in all countries. Sometimes things that seem obvious to us are seen through different optics because of distant history or distortion by global Russian propaganda. Therefore, we are doubling our diplomatic efforts in global South countries, opening new missions and looking to share our experience to build a successful competitive state. We would be happy to share with our partners our achievements in agriculture and IT sector, but also we are happy to share with them how we benefited from reforms and how they defined our development and resistance. Today, Ukraine is on the path to reforms too. The path has not become easier as our ambitious goals are to become a member of the European Union and NATO. Ukraine applied for EU membership in February 2022, right in the midst of the aggression, and was granted EU candidate status in June 2022. On 8th of November 2023, the European Commission recommended opening accession negotiations with Ukraine. On 14th of December 2023, the European Council decided to open accession negotiations with Ukraine. While EU candidacy marks a positive development for Ukraine, including stronger regional and global competitiveness, it also entails challenges and responsibilities. We must continue our efforts in implementing reforms and meeting the criteria outlined by the EU for eventual membership. The EU candidacy is a dynamic process that reflects a commitment to a common future built on the shared values and aspirations. Today, Ukrainian people continue their fight not only for existence and national identity, but for their future as a part of big European and Euro-Atlantic family. And just last passage, why it is you have to be wise about picking development partner. Last night, Russia spent $500 million for missile and drones attacking civilians in Ukraine, while High EU Commissioner for Foreign Affairs and Security, Joseph Borrell, spent a night in a bomb shelter. And Russia, before 2014, were spending billions in the soft power and development assistance to countries, including Ukraine. Thank you.